Welcome back to another episode of Fifth Down Territory, everybody. It's a new week, new childish Gambino, new childish Bahookie, rocking the beardless look coming at you, Crimson Chin in real life. So when the Fairly Odd Parents swing in for a few moments, y'all know to give them a shout out, make your wish. And you know what I'm wishing for, boys, is football season, and it's back. Training camp started. Next Thursday, I'll be watching Davis Mills throw a horrible seam pass to Steve Sims. So, that's what life is about, guys. It's about watching just copious amounts of football, begging people to start fantasy leagues, and college football has been a good little fix, but I'm ready for the real thing. But we got a lot coming at you today. As always, it's your boys. It's at Bahookie, Montana, at Stadium Rent HQ, and at DL Stewart 503. Nolan couldn't make it this week, but we're always holding it down. And this week we're doing the NFC West, which is like always one of the hardest divisions because they all good, low-key. We're going to talk about it. But we're going to start with some training camp battles. Man, so just so you guys know, like Tyler dropped this on us today, and I'm like, I ain't watching anybody else's training camp. Like, what are we talking about? So I have one from the Texans, and I'm gonna try and come up with some more as we go through the show sheet right here. But Bahookie had him filled out first, so I'm gonna let you go first. Nobody's stealing your thunder. You came prepped. So who are you watching as we get into training camp these next couple weeks?
So yeah, I did a top three here. One of each of the highest paid positions, all offensive positions. Number one was Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew, our quarterback battling up in Las Vegas. Number two, I had Khalil Shakir versus Keon Coleman for wide receiver one in the Buffalo offense. I don't think there really needs to be a winner here, but we'll see. And then number three, Wanya Morris versus Kingsley Sumatea at left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That is definitely interesting. I think Gardner Minshew is going to win that job out. I think he's a little bit better than Aiden O'Connell. I think on Aiden O'Connell's best day, he is Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew just wakes up as Gardner Minshew. So that's a clip. Go ahead and write that down.
Yeah, he wakes up and cut off jorts.
You know he's gonna be rocking it, bro.
Headband Minshew is unmatched.
Aiden O'Connell buys jorts and Gardner Minshew cuts his own.
It doesn't cut it; just grows like that, baby.
It does.
You want to go next, Tyler?
Yeah,
and I almost stole one of yours, but I decided to be a good co-host and not do that.
I mean, if you need a second one, go for it. But
no, go ahead. I got my second one, so I'm good.
My first one is Javon Baker and Jalen Polk versus the field for the Pats. I know it's a little bit homerish, but I am excited to see what these two dudes can look like, and if they kind of show out and like start demanding that they need to be on the field more, that's going to make me feel really good as a Patriots fan. So like I'm just really hoping that all I hear is good things and growth, and these dudes stand out because like we need them to at this point. The second one that interests me is Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. Both are very highly touted prospects. I know Bowers is definitely higher and a more polished product, but like Mayer kind of came on towards the end of the last season, so like he might have it more put together at an NFL level right this second. So it'll be interesting to see if Bowers steps on the field and is immediately better than him. Then the last one's Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd. I don't necessarily think this is like a battle for the starting spot, but I do think if Lloyd comes and shows out this training camp, like he's going to take a significant amount of touches away from Josh Jacobs.
And AJ Dillon just gets cut.
Even though I saw a report today that Matt LaFleur said AJ Dillon's in the best shape of his career.
That's what I've read. Yeah, I don't think it's Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd. I think it's AJ Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd right here.
I I hear a lot of things.
That's a battle. That's a real battle. AJ Dillon is coming fighting for his roster spot.
AJ Dillon just reminds me of year 5 Trent Richardson, and that's not what you want to be. You want to be years 1 through 3 Trent Richardson. I feel like after that, kind of cooked. But yeah, those are my 3. One's a bit homerish, one's kind of prospect versus slightly lower tier prospect, and the other one's a solidified paid guy versus a rookie. So I think that brings kind of a full circle. Go for it, Louie.
So do you want my real ones or do you want my joke ones first?
I'd love your joke ones first, honestly.
Okay, here are Louie's all-star camp battles to watch. At number 1 spot, I have Jordan Addison versus the speed limit. On one hand, my number 2 spot is Trevor Lawrence and his ankles, the nagging ankle injury from year over year. And then my third one is Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston, of course.
That's who Deshaun's battling.
Yeah. Not his inner demons or anything. For my real training camp battles, I've got obviously I'm going to do my homer pick number 1. Kamari Lassiter versus Jeff Okudah versus CJ Henderson. So you've got 2 really big, athletic, highly drafted guys in Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson. Both have a great career where they started. I really think they're playing for a CB3 or maybe CB2 for the first 3 games of the year. I think they drafted Lassiter with the intention of him being CB2. So I think it'll be interesting. They're not going to keep all 3 of these guys on the roster, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see between Okudah and Henderson which one kind of beats out Lassiter if they can to start the season as CB2. My second one, a little bit obvious, but I think Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy is something I'm going to be watching. I think everybody kind of wants to know how quickly McCarthy is going to be starting in this offense. I think you're going to get hints of that throughout training camp, depending on how well his practices go and who commands the offense better. I think Darnold starts week 1 no matter what, but I think training camp is going to give you a good indication of whether McCarthy is going to be ready at the first half of the season or the second half of the season. And then, not a joke, my third one is Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston. I put it in the joke category, but also I think if Jameis Winston has a better training camp than Deshaun Watson, that's going to raise some eyebrows. And so I think Deshaun's going to need to have a really, really good camp in order to keep some of these questions at bay so that the team can focus on putting their efforts together and having a winning season and going deep into the playoffs. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting ones this year, but it's mostly going to revolve around rookies that we really want to see. I also have Charbonnet and Walker on here. I think the starting job is 100% Walker's, but similar draft capital. I really think it's going to go to the hot hand. So I think that's something to keep an eye on how that's going to split out. So yeah, training camp.
Wanted to get some camp talk in there since camp's
I mean, when does training camp start for the Pats and for the Bills? I know Texans have been going on since last Wednesday.
Today. They got there today. Yeah.
So you guys were scroll deep in that Twitter scroll looking for those little camp observation nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always doing that type of shit anyway. So I also listen to the local broadcast of the radio station here who typically covers it and who's there for a lot of it. So yeah, I'll ramp that up this week and really get into it.
Real. All right. Well, let's jump right into the NFC West. We're going to start with the bottom dwellers, the Cardinals, coming off a really bad season, but obviously they get Kyler Murray back full strength, had a really solid draft class. So do you want to start us out this time, Tyler?
Yeah, sure. So I have them going. I'm a little bit higher on them than you guys. I have them going 10-7 this year. They added so many pieces to this team through the draft, and they had, I felt like a solid free agency, bringing in Jonah Williams to that guard or that tackle spot. And they get their quarterback back, and they played very scrappy and kind of above their means last year, even though their record wasn't that great. I thought they played well in a lot of the games that they lost. So I think with better talent on this team, they could be a wild card, in position to be a wild card team. Kyler Murray is my most polarizing player. Like, he's got to come out and show that, like, he's one of those guys. Like, he has to come out and show that he's like a top 10 franchise quarterback. You have McBride, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have James Conner, Trey Benson. You have a decent offensive system. I see no reason for him not to be able to go out and produce. My hot take for the Cardinals is that Trey McBride finishes as the tight end 1 this year. It is like a 5-point difference for me between him and Sam Laporta, but he's still like a top 5 player for me in fantasy this year. So I know this isn't a fantasy show, but fantasy numbers do equate to real life performance for the most part. So I think that he's going to be just excellent for the Cardinals this year, and a big reason why they're in the wild card position. Best games would be week 17 at the Rams, and this one's for wild card positioning because I do think the Rams are going to be good as well. And I think that just a week 17 game with playoff implications on the line is in your division. It's a divisional game as well. Just a lot of factors there for me that make that one of the best games on this schedule. DJ Humphries is my biggest departure. It was kind of hard to find a biggest departure for this team. I don't think they lost a whole bunch this offseason. They didn't have a bunch to lose, so they didn't lose much. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I have for the Cardinals.
I have them going 9 and 8. I think I'm similar to you. I think they're going to have a real upward trajectory. I think they pressed all the right buttons. My most polarizing player, and I got to double check my own memory here, but Buda's still with the team, right? Buda Baker?
Yes. He has not left yet.
He's not left. He's kind of been like a polarizing, like this guy's really good, but he's kind of been, in my opinion, declining a little bit. I think he just has caused a lot of drama and tension on this team in some ways. And so if he doesn't have a really good year, if he becomes a liability in coverage, I think that's going to be a really bad look for him. So to me, like, he's supposed to be a leader on this defense. I'd like to see him do that. And so that's why he's my most polarizing. My hot take is that Marvin Harrison Jr. ends the year statistically as a top 10 receiver in the NFL in any meaningful category. And I think he's top 5 in touchdowns. And then I think the biggest departure is Rondale Moore. I think they're, like you said, I mean, I don't really know of any big losses to this team. I think they upgraded in almost every meaningful way, but I liked Rondale Moore's game. I think they're kind of lacking a slot receiver now. So that's kind of what I'm going to put there. Kyler Murray's talking really highly about Greg Dortch. And I think if that pans out, then they're fine. Yeah. You could also put Hollywood Brown there. I don't think that's nearly as big of a departure because they replaced him with MHJ, who I think is going to be better.
That's what I did. I was like, is it
because that's
really
like the name that comes to mind. But and then my game of the year for them, I think Cards Dolphins is going to be a fun one to watch. I just think it's going to be a battle of really good wide receivers and weapons and defensive head coach, offensive head coach.
I get that. Bahookie, go for it.
Yeah, you guys had some good points. I'll piggyback off some of them. Yeah, Greg Dortch, you just mentioned, that was my most polarizing player. I had him as one of the best players that some people may never have heard of. And we're not a fantasy show, but we sprinkled it in there. And I think that he's a really good value pick for someone who might be available late. Biggest departure was one that I wanted to go to. So I had Zach Allen, who is one of their edge rushers on the defensive end, and that also goes along with J.J. Watt retiring. And I see this as a really potent offense. You guys have talked about it, but that defensive line right now, really, really lacking. And I think it's gonna take this team until mid-season to really kind of figure it out. And then I think like the second half of this season, they're going to really start firing.
Yeah, this feels like the team nobody wants to play down the stretch to me. Like
to get this team in the second half of the season,
in the back half.
Kyler Murray was a really good most polarizing player too. Like I usually try to stay away from the quarterbacks, but this one especially, like, we really haven't seen him play recently.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially because he came back last year and everybody knew the Cardinals were kind of a dumpster fire at that point. So it's like, how much of that are you watching? You know what I mean? Like that now.
He got to kick some rust off, but that wasn't really anything. Well, so like he should be coming back here healthy and big best game. I like the week 1 at Buffalo. This is a little bit of homerism, but objectively, it's just like a good game too, because it's like two teams that are going to be coming out that we don't really know what they look like.
Yeah, I don't think you set their record.
So record, I had 9-8 here, which was same as Louie, not too far off of you. You guys are saying you had this as a really, really good division. I was going through the schedules of the Seahawks and the Rams, and I don't really trust either of those teams. If I'm being honest, the Niners I see just kind of running away with this thing. Yeah, we can move on to the next ones after that.
I feel like all of us are saying the same thing about the Rams last year, and then the Rams did what they do, and they won 10 games and got into a playoff spot and barely lost to the Lions, you know, on just a tough play at the end of the game. So if that doesn't preview the Rams for you guys for me, then once we get there, I'll tell you why. But Bahookie, why don't you start with the Seahawks?
The Seahawks.
All right. Well, yeah, this is a team that like I've kind of gotten bits and pieces of taste like from previewing the other divisions, and I feel like they really benefit from being on the West Coast and teams having to travel out to play them, and it's just kind of like a tough spot for some teams to be in. But looking at their schedule, there's not like a ton of teams that I'm like super confident about them against. And so I had 5-12 as the record. For their most polarizing player, I had JSN because they drafted this guy high, and I had a number 2 pick in a dynasty draft, and I was debating between Jahmyr Gibbs and JSN, and I sat there for a second and I took Jahmyr Gibbs, and wow, am I happy I took Jahmyr Gibbs. Wow.
Yeah.
Like
you
really wow.
Crushed me with Gibbs in that you knocked me like off of first place, I'm pretty sure.
You were trying to come after that pick too, but I just saw the value there, and I was like, I cannot move, and I can't fault you for going after it. I mean,
I tried.
You got Savage to move off for Bijan, but that's okay with me.
We got a comment here on the Seahawks. Seahawks saw the defense, all the pieces you want offense.
All right,
but I still got 5-12 or 4-13 feel from them.
Okay, 5-12, 4-13. All right, moving on. I'm going to go to their biggest departure, and that's Pete Carroll.
The chewing gum. No more gum chewing on the sideline for them.
I don't know who this team is. I don't know what their identity is now. And by all accounts, they had one of the best new coaching hires here. And maybe I'm wildly wrong here, but I really don't know who this team is. And best game here, I've got week 3 versus Miami. Again, because this is an early game, Miami is usually really good in the first few weeks of the season. They usually have everyone convinced that they're the class of the AFC by week 3, and this could be that West Coast game where they go out and they light it up, or maybe Seattle makes a statement at home against Miami. I don't know. I like to pick my best game is a game that's just really hard to pick. And then hot take. What do we got here? This team never really figures out what they are, who they are, what their quarterback situation is, who their playmakers are, how to use them, and nothing ever gets solved. So that's kind of how I got them getting to 5-12.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Lou, you want to go next?
Sure. I've got this team at 6-11. I'm a little bit higher, I think, than most people. I just don't feel like they got that much worse. And I actually like their new coach more than their last coach. I'm a big believer in McDonald. I think he's going to run a great defense. I think they have some of the personnel he wants to pull that off. So it'll be interesting to see how this season goes for them. But my most polarizing player is Zach Charbonnet. I think this is a big reason why they kind of had to move off the old regime, because these back-to-back picks of second-round running backs is just like a weird thing to me. Like Charbonnet doesn't really feel like he fits here. I think he has the talent, but it's like, how does he actually fit into this offense?
Yeah.
I just think Walker's clearly the better player. My hot take is that Lockett retires before the season's over.
Wow.
Which is very rare. I don't think Lockett makes it to the end of the season. I would never wish injury upon somebody, but I just think their season's not going the way he wants, and maybe he gets a little banged up and he's just like, yeah, it's time to hang up the cleats kind of thing. He's getting up there in age, and I could see him being a mid-season go. My biggest departure is Quandre Diggs, their safety, who's still a free agent, I think. I don't think he's signed anywhere, has he?
Yeah, like most of the safeties and cornerbacks that are veterans.
Crazy, just sitting out there chilling. Come to Houston, baby. And then I've got their best game week 1 against the Broncos. I feel like the Broncos suck, so Seahawks will have a good day.
Yeah. I feel that.
Battle of mid right there.
Yeah. I have them going 4-13. What NFL Experts podcast said kind of feels really right. Like, I like McDonald as a hire. I think that their defense has all the pieces that they kind of need, and the offense does as well. It's just a matter of putting it all together and having it be efficient and working for them. I kind of agree with this too. Like, we're all down on Seattle, but would it surprise anybody if they go like 11-6? Like, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't necessarily see it happening, but if it happens, I could be like, oh, well, they have all these players that are really good and a coach that I kind of like. And I love the fact that they got rid of Shane Waldron and brought the offensive coordinator from Washington in. I think that's a really good thing for them. But this is more about not everything gelling this year for me. And like, I think that they're going to be a good team next year. Once their like kind of system is in place, once like you kind of get all the Pete Carroll stuff out of there and replace it with your new regime, by the time all that like sets in, I think it'll be too late to have a great season this year. My most polarizing player on this team is DK Metcalf, and it kind of ties in with my hot take, since we all think that they're not gonna be good. I think Metcalf gets moved at the deadline, and the hottest of the hot takes is to New England for a second round pick. That's going to be a high second round pick. I don't like New England should be okay. I don't see anything great. So the mild take is Metcalf gets moved. The hot take is that he gets moved to New England. But either way, I think he's going to be a disgruntled wide receiver this year and going to be upset with the way that everything is kind of going. I could be wrong. Like, I think what Wayne,
I feel like he's disgruntled every year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So I think that like after 2 straight seasons of not living up to expectations, and then this one you're kind of bottoming out, I don't know if he wants to be there for a third year. I have week 14 at Arizona as the best game on the schedule for them. because they play Arizona in week 12, then they play somebody else week 13. I forget exactly who. Then week 14, they go to Arizona. I think they lose the game at home, lose the next game, and then come back and beat Arizona and that in Arizona. And I think it'll be like the win of their season. It will happen late. So I think they might like gain a little bit of momentum going into next year. It might not like fuel wins at the end of this year, but it's something to like look at and be like, hey guys, we can compete in this division. Yeah, you kind of stole my biggest departure in Quandre Diggs there, Louie. I think we talked about the free show, and I go, yeah, I have Quandre Diggs. And I look, and you have Quandre Diggs, bastard. So yeah,
I mean, I don't. Who else left this team? I don't know.
Jamal Adams.
I want everybody watching this. We're gonna air some beef for a minute. Tyler just added this to our show sheet week over week, and he's just like, we're doing this now, and it is so hard to track who lost who because it's not like a typically reported thing. They'll be like, we've signed so and so, but nobody's like, they lost these people.
That's why we have to talk about it.
So it's incredibly difficult to find a list of like, here's everybody who Seattle lost. But then he wants to complain.
That's why we do it. That's why we do it.
Wants to complain.
We do it for the people. We do it for the people, Louie.
Man, shave my head and call me Joe Shady. Let's move on to the next one.
No. All right. I'll go first. Yeah, because I went last.
The Rams. Yeah, give us your spiel on the Rams here. You're a Ram believer.
I mean, I'm a Sean McVay believer. I thought this team was going to suck last year, and they didn't. They went to the playoffs and almost beat the team that almost went to the Super Bowl. And I like they only lost by 3 points in that game. I think that they're going to go 11-6 this year. I was looking at the schedule. I just Sean McVay, healthy Matt Stafford, like they're a tough team to beat, and they're especially when Kyren Williams was healthy last year. They had a top 5 offense when he was healthy. And you going into year 2 with Puka, hopefully Cooper Kupp is fully healthy again. Like, and then Demarcus Robinson even like really showed up towards the tail end of last year as a solid 3 receiver. They added Kobe Parkinson at tight end. Tyler Higbee's still there, but I think he has some sort of lower leg injury that it doesn't look great. But yeah, so the most polarizing player on this team, I think, is Blake Corum, because once Kyren Williams went down, they went from like being a top 5 offense to being like a mid-tier. I think it was 16 or 17, might have been even less than that for scoring offenses in the weeks that Kyren Williams didn't play. So if he misses time again, I think Blake Corum is going to be a massive help to this team, because I just think he's so much better than a Ronnie Rivers or a Royce Freeman or anybody that Sean McVay pulls off, the scrap heap from prior years. My hot take for this team is the defense is actually better this year without Aaron Donald. I think that their secondary
spicy take.
Yeah, I think it has to do with their secondary instead of their defensive line. I think their secondary improved greatly with Cameron Curl coming over from the Commanders. They signed Darius Williams, who came over from Jacksonville. I think he was one of their better cornerbacks. And then they got Trey White, who I know is old, coming off an injury, but if he can play, I don't know, 10, 12 games at a high level, like that defense, like that secondary is going to be good. They have Kobe Bryant at nickel. He's a really good nickel slot cornerback. Then you have Byron Young, Kobe Turner. They drafted Jared Verse and Brandon Fiskey from Florida State. So that you're kind of negating your loss of Aaron Donald with multiple pieces on that front that can do a lot of different things. So, yeah, I just think that the sum of all this team's pieces are going to be better than the one player that was making them really good last year, personally. Yeah, so that's my hot take. Week 16, Rams at Jets is my game of the year for them. If both Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers are healthy, this is going to be an excellent football game. Like everybody's going to want to watch this.
And if my grandma could fly, she wouldn't have fallen down the stairs. So.
Well, maybe your grandma should look into getting some wings. Because if both these QBs are healthy, it's going to be a great game. If we're looking at like Tyrod Taylor versus random quarterback who backs up Matt Stafford, then no, this game's going to suck. But I go into all of these things assuming health, which I mean, you can't really predict injuries. I think the biggest departure for this team is going to be Zach Robinson. I couldn't really find Blake took Aaron Donald, so I didn't want to, steal his thunder there. I'll let you explain.
This is one of the ones where Kirk Cousins with the Vikings. It's okay for more than one person to choose Aaron Donald for this one. You don't have to. I mean, I understand trying to choose someone different, but it's Aaron Donald here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do it for the conversational piece. Like, we'll talk about Aaron Donald when it's your turn. But I do think Zach Robinson is a big loss.
No, that's a legitimate piece. That's a good 1B.
Yeah, I think so. But the loss will be mostly negated because Sean McVay is still there, and he just teaches people that offense, and they they go and get coaching jobs. Like that coaching tree is busting out right
strong. Now.
Okay. So yeah. I think that's it for me. Louie,
can I run it next?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Sorry. So I'm not as high on them here. Honestly, kind of the same deal as the Seahawks. Went through their schedule, and they were just not a lot of games I really felt that confident with them about. And I wasn't as optimistic about the net gain versus loss. And yeah, Aaron Donald, we're talking about one of the best pass rushers of our generation and beyond. Beyond. Who's the better pass rusher all time? We're talking about Aaron Donald and Reggie White. R.I.P. Reggie White. Like the guy who started free agency.
I'll always have a special hatred for Aaron Donald from keeping J.J. Watt from having 5 defensive players of the year, but
no, he
recognizes game.
We really need to stop for a second and recognize the certified sicko that Aaron Donald will be forever. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, no, I'd probably take Reggie White
gold jacket. He's got it.
I would take Reggie White by a slim margin, and that should tell you all you need to know.
He is undoubtedly first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer. It doesn't matter who retires alongside this dude. I mean, he's getting in. There's no way he doesn't. Greatest defender of the 2000s so far, I would say.
Could you? Yeah, and. So yeah, we got him and JJ Watt. Two of the guys you just think about as a normal person, if that guy was just coming at you full speed, what do you do? The answer is you die. You just die right there. That's it. You your life flashes and you thank the higher powers for everything that has been. Most polarizing player for the Rams. Trey White here, you mentioned him earlier. They gave him some money, and could have been a legend for the Bills. He really had that trajectory the first few years of his career, and then had back-to-back injuries, and it was just really upsetting. And Bills cut him and got a $10 million kickback, and then the Rams signed him post June 1st. What is he going to be following an ACL and an Achilles in back-to-back years? I don't have incredibly high hopes. I hope for him to do well, but they brought this guy in, and he's very likely cooked at this point. Hot take. Speaking of being cooked, this team, I think it's done. I think their best years are past them. Again, I am the Niners running away with this division. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're in it. I don't see it. I see Matt Stafford and Sean McVay being done after this year. That's my hot take, because it just doesn't really go. They got their Super Bowl ring, and I think that this is kind of it. And best game. You ready for it, Louie?
I'm ready.
Week 1, Matt Stafford.
Revenge
game. There it was.
You guys
love a revenge game.
So real quick, Wayne says he'd make a case for Revis as the best defender of the 2000s, but Aaron Donald best pass rusher. What do you guys think? I think it's Aaron Donald, and like Revis is probably in the top 3 for me.
I'm a middle linebacker, and I'm biased, and I'm going to take Luke Kuechly.
That's insane.
Wow.
I think it's Aaron Donald. It's hard to separate positional value from players, and I mean, like, it's so like measuring a cornerback versus a defensive tackle is absolute insanity. But the truth of the matter is, if I could pick between Darrelle Revis and Aaron Donald to just take and put on any team, I'd always pick Donald. So I'm still going to stick with that argument. Yeah, but Luke Kuechly, JJ Watt, Stephon Gilmore in his prime, I think. Darrelle Revis. There's been tons of really, really good. Obviously, like, there's so many good defenders in the 2000s. It's stupid. And a lot in recent years, too. But I think Donald shines past the bias a little bit, and I think he's the best.
Hot take here, I think, for some people. Patrick Willis was better than Luke Kuechly.
Shorter prime, though, right?
Absolutely. He retired. He retired early. No, he played for like 7 years, but he retired.
He wasn't good.
He might have been more like talented, but Luke Kuechly was the true student of the game, and like the really like, and yeah, they both retired early too. So that's an interesting conversation to have.
Maybe maybe next week we'll talk about our greatest 2000s players. I just saw Matt Ryan and JJ Watt do like the greatest 2000s offense, 2010s versus the 2010s. Maybe we'll do something like that.
That'd be cool.
Rams, for me, I've got them going 10-7. Were you done, Bahookie?
Yeah, that was my last. I'm done. You're good to move on.
Yeah, I've got them going 10-7. Just kind of like hanging around where they were last year. I don't think they got a whole lot better or a whole lot worse. I just think they're going to be different. My most polarizing player is Kyren Williams himself. I'm not a Kyren Williams believer. I think the Blake Corum draft position showcases that maybe they're not a big believer either. I do think McVay is going to absolutely use this dude. So if you're a fantasy redraft, I think take him high. But this just seems like a bump it and dump it kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to use this dude for a couple years until he's a shell of himself, and then they're going to say, have a nice retirement, and send him right on back to the nursing home. So, it's hard for me because I'm like, if he performs well, they're going to give him an unbearable workload. And if he doesn't perform well, he's probably not staying on the team. So it kind of feels like a lose-lose to me. My hot take is that this offense is not top 10 this year. I think we categorically look at a McVay-led offense as top 10, and I just don't think that's the case for this team this year. I think Stafford's going to regress somewhat as he gets older, and like some of the arm strength's going to go. I think Kupp's on the cusp of not being really a top 30 wideout anymore. So I think there's some glaring holes on this team. And then my biggest departures were Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson. I don't know if that's cheating or not. If we're just strictly doing players, to me, I would say
Zach Robinson. So you're copying me again.
Okay, I'll take Raheem Morris then.
There we
go. I couldn't find it because you write like 9 lines of text. I'll take Raheem Morris then. I think he was a big part of why this defense was good. I think that's why he got a head coaching job. I think he's a good leader of men. I think that's hard to replace. I'm not a big Shula guy, so I think this defense does get a little better, but I think that's because of talent infusion and not because of coach. And I think this team would be much better with him than they are without him. And then my best game for them is Rams Packers. I think that's always a good game. LaFleur and McVay. I think those dudes hate each other low key, and that always makes me want to watch a game more.
One of these years, you guys are going to be right about like the McVay downfall and the Matt Stafford McVay downfall, but it's just not going to be this year. So
I mean, I don't think it's a downfall. I don't think 10-7 is a downfall.
I think their offense not being top 10 with everybody else
6-11 is a downfall.
I think they squeak into like 11 or 12. I just think I think there's 10 offenses better than this offense, even with Puka.
The numbers just say differently when they were fully healthy. They were scoring like 33 points a game when Kyron Williams was there last year.
Yeah. No, Kyron Williams was very nearly that was a really good pick for the most polarizing player. I almost chose him, and he's like a guy I want to believe in, but he's also just small.
He definitely is small, which is why I had Blake Corum as mine, because like I do think he's going to get banged up, and I do think Corum is he's pretty much like a similar body type to Kyron Williams.
So you're saying there's no drop off in that offense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I think they're going to be that good of a team, because when
if that's true, then you have a case. But it's just a lot. It's an unknown there, but we'll see. Not a terrible take.
Hot take for you guys is that I think Sean McVay just hates running backs for some reason. I think like when he was in high school, a running back stole his girlfriend, and I think now he hates all running backs with a passion in his soul.
Have you seen his wife? She's
excuse me.
I think he liked Todd Gurley.
Jared Goff made a comment about her. Anyways,
Jared Goff stays winning, bro. Always. All right, so moving into the Niners here, I've got them going 11-6 this year. A bit of a step back for them. My most polarizing player is Ricky Pearsall. It's not really fair to make a rookie the most polarizing player unless it's like some super change the franchise guy like Caleb Williams. But he went above most projections for where people had Ricky Pearsall going. And they already have a really talented wide receiver room. So I'm just kind of interested to see if can he live up to any kind of first round hype in his first year. You know, if he ends with like 500 yards.
He's on the
he already put the hammy in camp
now, isn't he?
Yes.
He's on the pup list, yeah. So that's 100% gonna hinder his development before the season starts, and it's just not what you want to see. So I think people could be labeling him as a bust before the year is out. So I would just be interested to see if he can get on the field, he can make some production and take some pressure off of all these other weapons that they have. My hot take is that the Niners lose the 1 seed to the Lions. I think I had my hot take for the Lions was that they have the 1 seed. So that's my hot take for the Niners as well, is I think they just don't get business done this year and they have to actually play through instead of playing from the top. Obviously their rematch versus the Chiefs. I think everybody probably has that as the game, but I mean, I'm going to pull up their schedule. I'll give you a second one because I'm sure I stole Tyler's on that as well.
I'll do a second one. You keep that one. I'll do a second.
Okay. I was going to say, I've got a couple other on here that I would take, but and what am I missing? Biggest departure? Did Chase Young maybe? I couldn't really think of anybody else.
I like that one.
I mean, I think he was okay for them. He's not as good as where he was drafted. I don't think he's ever going to recapture that if he hasn't yet. But I think he was a good presence, and I don't think who did they sign to replace him? I can't remember. You could also say the guy that went to the Jaguars if nobody has him.
Bahookie has him.
Okay, I'm not going to say him then.
I honestly think that this is a good trade proposal. If the Pats send Matt Judon in a second round pick to the 49ers, maybe add a 5th round pick too for Brandon Ayuk and like a 7th. I think that that actually fixes like a massive need for the 49ers defense. That gives Nick Bosa somebody. Huh?
If
I
you-
really don't. I don't think they're gonna trade him, but
Yeah,
like
that's how I feel.
I think that's a good package for them. Matt Judon shows up. He puts numbers up on the board.
Judon is nasty. Judon and Bosa would be nasty.
That'd be a problem. And like that's what they're looking. They're looking for that secondary edge rusher to help Bosa and to take pressure off of him. And Ayuk's obviously pissed. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Jawan Jennings is like nobody should sleep on him. He's a good player. CMC, George Kittle, Debo Samuel, you'll be fine. But like, and you get a second round pick that's probably around like, let's say 34 to 38. I think that's a very solid deal. And then they give Judon an extension. We give Ayuk an extension. Everybody's happy, especially me. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I just don't think. I don't think they want to move off of Ayuk.
No, but they also don't want to pay him $28 million a year. So, like, what are you going to do?
Wait a year, win a Super Bowl, figure it out after that.
I don't think so. Louie, you are you done? Or you have anything else?
I'm done.
All right, I'm gonna go real quick. I have them going 13-4. I have the most polarizing player is Brandon Ayuk because of all this drama off the field. It's pretty clear that he is the best receiver on the team, but they do not want to pay him that $28 million a year. Like they're not interested in that. I don't think that they're capable of doing it. Especially if they are going to pay Brock Purdy coming up, and with the quarterback market how it is, that contract's going to be ridiculous. So yeah, I do think that Brandon Ayuk is the most polarizing player, and if things don't necessarily go well this year, they might try and tag and trade him next year, but I don't think he's there for the long term. My hot take for this team, though, is that they don't make it back to the NFC Championship game. I think they lose in a divisional game, possibly against like the Packers or the Lions, or maybe a team like the Cardinals. Who knows? I don't think they're that good yet, but I just don't. I don't think that they get to the NFC Championship game again. Then my best game that I had to change up was Week 17 versus Detroit. Rematch of that NFC Championship game. That was just an absolute banger. And yeah, my biggest departure is again subtraction by addition. The more that Brandon Staley is involved with this team, the more this defense is going to suffer. I hate that dude. I think he sucks.
Or think about it this way. What if they lock him in a room and say you can only yell profanities at Brandon Staley if you win a game by this margin, and all of a sudden they have the best offense in history?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just run in there and yell profanity after profanity at a man that the world hates. But on the other hand, if you don't, Brandon Staley yells profanities at you.
Now I just punched Brandon Staley in the face.
No, imagine Brandon Staley being like, "You a weak little boy." I'd want to kill myself. So inevitably I would then work harder so I could say something back to him the following week.
I actually got something from Sleeper right here. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan offered former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick the 49ers defensive coordinator job, but Belichick politely declined. Who in their right mind thinks Belichick's going to come back and play coordinator for somebody? Like, bro, why?
Maybe add another ring.
I don't think he would lower himself from head coach to coordinator. You're basically already lowering yourself from having all of the control here to going to just the head coach role and not the GM role that he had. So I don't think he steps another level down. And honestly, those wins that he won, the 15 wins he wants, are as a head coach, not a coordinator. So it wouldn't add to that, like to the Shula record that he's trying to chase. Yeah. Do I think that would be gross? Belichick coaching that defense, only focusing on that defense? Hell yeah. Do I think he has it within him in his pride to put that down to go do that? Not a chance in hell, brother. Not a chance in hell. But you got to make that call, I guess. Bahookie, you want to go?
All right. This is one of the few teams that I really trust in the NFC. Like, who do I really trust in the NFC? The Niners and the Lions. That's honestly about it. Maybe the Eagles. Um, and and maybe the Bucks, depending on the time of year. But yeah, there's only a couple teams that I like legitimately trust in the NFC. The Niners are that team. I have them 14-3, 1 seed. Hot take: I have them winning the Super Bowl. Most polarizing player, I said Debo because I've never been as high on Ayuk as everyone else, but every other football fantasy nerd tells me that I'm wrong, and Debo is not compared to Ayuk, and I think that's just wrong personally, because Debo is big and he can block and run the ball, and that should be worth something. But what do I know?
I think they just have differing skill sets. Like I feel like Debo's better at zone. You can use him in the backfield, create touches for him. Ayuk's like a really, really, really good man beater, and like if you're manning him up 1-on-1, he could take the top off the defense, and he's really, really efficient downfield. So I think like you have both of them together is really dangerous, but they're both good at separate things. I think.
All right, thank you for that. Honestly, appreciate it.
I try and help out when I can.
I'm really trying to refrain from making a joke about a man beater. It's fine. Keep going.
It's okay. Go back to kindergarten. All right.
So best game.
That's just the opposite.
I went home. I went homer for my best game twice this year. At Buffalo on December 1st, week 13. This is one of the few games on their schedule objectively where they might not be favored. Like looking at it like from the Vegas perspective, like going through their schedule, like they're going to be favored in almost all of their games, like as will the Chiefs, and go this game in December going to Buffalo as a West Coast team. Like this is a game where maybe it's a 1.5 point favorite for Buffalo. Maybe we'll see. I don't know what kind of teams they will be. But with that being said, and again, I try to kind of stay with the collective of my best games are games that are hard to pick and like the winner of, and this would be one of them. And biggest departure, Eric Armstead.
Yeah, no, I get that. So we have a couple minutes here. That was our NFC West division dissection.
100% know what I want to do.
I was just gonna say, do you guys have any thoughts on Hard Knocks? Have you watched the off-season part of Hard Knocks yet?
I've been watching part of it.
I have none.
I just find it's never going to happen again. It's kind of my opinion.
Oh, dude, I think that they should scrap the in-season bullshit.
Oh, I think they should, but the Giants look absolutely horrible.
You got to make better decisions when you're on the camera then, buddy. I think that they should take a division and then do each team's off season, do the same thing that they're doing for the Giants, but release 2 episodes a week, and then have each month be a different division in the football dead calendar. So like let's say you're doing the AFC East. The Patriots would be what are we looking at here? May. Then the Bills would be June. The Dolphins be July, and the Jets would be August. And by the time you're done watching those 2 episodes a week for 8-episode seasons, you're back into the football season. And it's so much more compelling to see these people in a draft, like a war room, like trying to figure out, talking to agents, figure out all these price points. Like, here, you do this. The transparency of it is really what makes me interested in it, as opposed to like seeing how people train in the off season, what they prepare for. Like that like you've already done that. That doesn't do much for me. So like get rid of that, change the format, and adapt with the times, because people want to see this off season thing. Yeah. I thought it was so cool watching them like talk to the agents and like lock in price points for all these players and like actually what their thought process is when they go into a room and have these meetings. So yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna add my screen real quick. I want to talk about this. This is USA Today's 2024 NFL record projections. So this is something I looked at. I thought it was interesting to see kind of like where they felt compared to a lot of our projections, especially in the AFC side, because we're already done. So for those of you guys who listen on radio, basically they have the Chiefs winning the West, the Bengals winning the North, Colts winning the South, and the Jets winning the East in the AFC. And then in the NFC, the Niners win the West, the Packers win the North, the Falcons win the South, and the Eagles win the East. Ends up being a Packers-Jets Super Bowl, and the Jets win the Super Bowl.
Yuck. Get that out.
Give me some initial reactions aside from the Jets and the Packers Super Bowl where the Jets win as like the ultimate Aaron Rodgers Hall of Fame
Can I go first?
dream.
Yeah,
Like,
go first.
My initial reaction. that's my initial reaction.
I think so. Just some ones I want to point out here, like the Browns finishing better than the Ravens seems incredibly unlikely to me.
I know you're tight about the Texans being 9-8 in third place in the South.
I think I'm more impressed that they think two teams are going to do better. I don't know that the 9-8 record's super shocking to me. We have a really hard strength of schedule. And if they don't come out the door firing, that's probably where we're going to end, if I'm being honest. And I like the Colts. I think the Jaguars one I'm a little touchy on, but I think another one that shocks me a little bit is the Raiders being 6-11. That feels generous. But I also like how weak they have the NFC East, like 10-7. The Cowboys have a losing record. The Commanders are only one win out from the Cowboys. Like, that's just kind of wild.
Cowboys missing the playoffs is actually starting to be a kind of a popular take.
Yeah. They have the Packers overtaking the Lions. They have the Bears going 9-8 with Caleb Williams. So I don't know.
I don't think the Pats are going 13-4 or 3-14.
I don't think they're going 13-4 either.
I was going to say that seems unlikely.
That's not happening. I could see a 7-10 type of season. Like I think 3 wins is a little bit too low. Like they had a really, really good defense last year with two of their best
the number one pick.
Yeah, I know.
Put money on it. Their win total is going to be like over under 4.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, I might throw it in like a win total parlay, but I don't throw straight bets. Like I don't like doing that. No value for me.
So yeah, I just thought like, so I want to read like the playoff teams here. So it's going to be in the AFC. It's Chiefs have the 1 seed. Jets have the 2 seed. Colts have the 3 seed. Bengals 4. Bills 5. Jaguars 6. And Browns 7, which means the Ravens, Texans miss the playoffs.
Dolphins.
Chargers miss the playoffs. And then in the NFC, Niners are the 1. Packers are the 2. Eagles 3. Falcons 4. Lions 5. Rams 6. Bears 7. So they have the Bears making the playoffs in Caleb Williams' first year. That leaves the Cowboys and the Bucks out of the playoffs on the NFC side. So just some interesting takes there.
Who had the Saints winning 8 fucking games? Like what? That's a lot of games for that team to be winning.
It's definitely an interesting take. Like statistically, 4 new teams make the playoffs, I think, every year.
Yeah.
So they followed that formula exactly. I think they picked some weird teams to phase out. Like, I don't hate the Colts making the playoffs. I think that's really likely. I don't like the Ravens missing. I think that seems incredibly unlikely to me. So if anything, to me, it would be like Colts Chargers make the playoffs. I don't like the Bears making the playoffs in Caleb Williams' first year. I just don't think this team is that good. I could see the Falcons making the playoffs, you know. I think that's a huge win total for the Commanders to hit.
7, yeah.
That's big for them. Jaden Daniels doing. Whoever made this clearly likes rookie quarterbacks. Like Commanders and Bears both pretty much pushing playoffs in year one is a little surprising. But anyway, that wraps our show for this week. Unless you guys have any more comments on this.
No, I think I'm good. We have one more division dissection next week, right?
And then we'll preview the Hall of Fame game, talk about the guys who are going in. We'll do a little quiz. I'll prep some stuff for that. So, but yeah, football's back next Thursday. So, as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back next Tuesday at the same time. So, check out stadiumrant.com, articles, the newsletter, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys next week. And hopefully we'll see Blake's beard as well.
Later.